John Philip Sousa led the Marine Band to new heights and popularity during his tenure as leader from 1880 to 1892. It is during this era he earned the title the March King, a well-deserved nickname that continues to this day. Of the 136 marches he composed, one stood out among the rest. It was composed in 1896 as Sousa sailed back home from a long European vacation. The inspiration of this piece was a combination of homesickness, fond memories of his time as Marine Band leader, and the stirring recollection of the American flag flying over the White House. The resulting march became his best known work, and in 1987, it officially became our nation's national march. The Stars and Stripes Forever. Like many of Mr. Sousa's marches, he follows almost a strict form of a march. All marches start with an introduction or an intro. After that is the first strain. A strain is similar to a theme or thematic material. And in most marches, this strain is repeated. Since it's played twice, Mr. Sousa decides to change up not only the dynamic, but the style and timbre from the first and second time of the first strain. During the first time, only the woodwinds and percussion play. This results in a much quieter dynamic, a lighter timbre, and kind of a free-flowing melody. The second time through, Mr. Sousa adds in the brass, which adds sort of a ferocity and aggression towards the same melody, and he does this through accents in the bass drum as well as the brass instruments. Since he's adding more instruments, the dynamic will get louder, and the timbres get a little darker and more aggressive. After the first strain, we have the second strain. Remember, a strain is new material or a new theme. So here we're seeing a second little theme in this piece of music. And just like the first strain, the second strain is repeated. Sousa does the same in the second strain as he does in the first strain, where the first time through the second strain is just woodwinds and percussion. Again, to have a quieter dynamic and a light airiness to the melodies. The second time, he adds the brass, making it louder, more aggressive, and he gets that aggressiveness from accented quarter notes with a nice marcato accent. After our second strain, we go to the most different part of the march, and this is called the trio. At the trio, we see three distinct changes in key, which is our tonal center, in dynamic, which we get much quieter, and in style change. We're no longer aggressive and marcato. We play nice and smooth in a legato feeling. So our three changes. Our first change is a key change. In most marches, there's always a key change at the trio. And in great band literature, we normally add a flat to the key signature. The second main change in the trio is the dynamic change. Coming off the second strain, second time, Mr. Sousa added the brass, and it was a louder dynamic, and it was very aggressive. At the trio, we once again have woodwinds and some light brass. Having less musicians and playing in a quieter dynamic will obviously make the dynamic change more extreme, going from a loud aggressive from the second strain, second time, to the trio. The third change at the trio is style change. All throughout the march, during the intro, the first strain, and the second strain, we see the use of accents and cymbal crashes of sudden bursts of color and aggressiveness. However, now we're going to a more legato or smoother style. After the trio, we go to the break strain. Keep in mind that strain is a thematic material or a new theme. So now we're seeing a new melody being built, and in the break strain, it is built off the low brass. And just as we had going into the trio, we had many changes, we have the same changes reversed back to as in the second strain happen at the break strain. So the low brass has the melody, so we have a dynamic change, we get much louder. And we have a style change. We're going back to our aggressive marcato accents in our style. So these dynamics, or the dynamic change and style change, are the same as in the first and second strain, second time. This break strain is probably the most recognizable break strain in all of march music, whether it be American or British marches. Also, after the break strain, we come up to our third strain. During the third strain, we hear most likely the most popular and most well-known piccolo solo in all of band literature. During this piccolo solo, As you would assume, going from a low brass melody to a piccolo solo, we once again go back to a dynamic change and we get much quieter. We don't have a style change here because the piccolo still accents and uses those marcato accents to pop out notes and really brightens up the piece. Mr. Sousa does something quite remarkable here. Normally, composers would just repeat the third string. However, he breaks the mold of the form of a march, and he repeats the break string and the third string all together. So it looks like this. So there's many dynamic contrasts and style contrasts between the break string and the third string, and again going from the third string to the break string once again. At the third string the second time, we add the brass, and we get that tenacious ferocity with our accent patterns and loud bass drums and cymbal crashes to signal the end of the piece. So it's bombastic and loud. And as a trombone player, I'd like to say that this third strain last time has one of the best counter melodies ever heard in march music and perhaps in all American music. And it really counters the melody played in the brass, or the trumpets and horn and clarinet. There's the breakdown of John Philip Sousa's Stars and Stripes Forever. As you notice, we have many different thematic material, starting from our intro, which is a 4-bar intro, to the first strain, which is contrasted between the first and second time in dynamics and timbre because of the instruments and instrumentation used. The same goes with the second string. We see that dynamic and timbres are changed, and the thickness and the texture of the music is different between the second string and the first string. Our biggest change in music happens at the trio, where we have our very first key change, our dynamic change, a severe dynamic change, and a style change, going to a smooth legato feel from our regular marcato accent patterns. And then, of course, our break strain and third strain once again follow suit with our first and second strain. Very marcato accent and loud. Well, there you have it, folks. There's the breakdown of John Philip Sousa's Stars and Stripes Forever.